Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, the evening edition. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll see a link. You can click on that and end up in Zoom. If you end up in Zoom, you can click another link and you'll end up in Mukana. That's where you become one of the producers for the show. You're actually driving the show with your questions. We don't know what we're going to talk about until you start asking questions and voting on those questions. We do tend to talk a little longer about whatever the first couple questions. So getting in early and voting on those is really important. And remember that in your profile area, the little hamburger in the upper right for most people, where your name is, you can basically change your profile there. And one of the things you can do is you can add the pronunciation of your name, which is super useful for us. So you can put your pronunciation in there. You can also save questions. So you can actually save questions in there and then pump them in the next day. And so just remember that that's there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. It's a little more informal today. I'm going to go ahead and answer the questions myself, or ask the questions myself. I won't answer them. We have a whole crew for that. First question is coming in from James Babbitt. He said, will there be an office hours meeting for the Apple event on Tuesday? The answer is yes. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we will just start the post show, and the post show will just run right through the Apple event. so that's how that'll work. So I do have a hard out at 11 because Mac break starts, but TWiT's going to do its own Mac break coverage, and then we're going to do our Mac break coverage with each other, talking about it. So, but we'll just do the post show at 9, and then I'll probably leave for a little bit. I've got a couple meetings, and then I'll come back right at 10 or a little before, and we'll all start talking about Apple. So stay tuned for that. It will be easy. You do need to sign up for that post show. If you're wondering where is that post show, because we don't talk about the post show that much, it is in your email at the bottom. There's a link for the post show. You can register there. Go ahead, TJ.
Is this going to be a second ear experience? So we have to stream it ourselves and converse here? Okay.
So it's a second ear experience. And what that means is that we're expecting that you're watching the stream somewhere. That way we can just keep talking amongst ourselves. So we don't feel restricted about waiting until they finish talking. So letting you know that you can always turn the volume up or down on us and watch the show on your own. So it's really designed to be something as if you were sitting around talking with your friends about what you're looking at there. So just be warned. Don't come prepared. You want to have it up on your Apple TV or another device or your computer, or even just another window on your computer will be enough to do that. So hopefully some of you will join. It's my favorite version of the show. Like it's, I mean, of coverage. I've covered a lot of these at TWiT and everything else, but there's something fun about all of us just sitting around chatting. So, and it will be meeting mode, so you still will be able to use Mukana to make comments and ask questions, and so we'll open that up as well. All right. Next question from the Seventh Scroll in Brooklyn. Hey guys, would connecting many different computers, example Mac Minis or Raspberry Pis for graphics, presentations, etc., run the risk of overtaxing the ATEM extreme? Go ahead, Peter.
I haven't found a case. I mean, I've got all 8 inputs filled. And with, a 6K camera at one end to a Mac Pro and a large, no. And the answer is no. I can't overrun it. I can't overrun it.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, the way that switchers work is they're not actually paying attention to the bits that they are switching, unless you're putting advanced effects on top of it. You can switch as fast as you want in the same way that's like saying, well, is a MIDI drum set going to get overwhelmed if I play too many notes? Well, the answer is, not impossible, but at the same time, it really is just a physical limitation that is designed to not be run up against. It might not perfectly hit the paradiddle the way you wanted it to, but that's just because it's not being triggered correctly. Yep. Same idea. It's just a completely linear process.
Yep. Michael and then David.
Yeah, this is just another. I have one camera and one open input, and the other 6 are coming from my Mac Pro or various DeckLink cards. And now my Telestrator computer, and it's fine. And to the ATEM, a computer signal is really no different than any other HDMI signal. So whatever's going in there is, it'll take it and do what you want with it.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I guess my question to that is I've just employed my Extreme and using super sources. Would that not tax things or run the risk of?
I mean, this is the big advantage. The big advantage of hardware, if they're built well, the big advantage of a hardware switcher is it's built to do all the things that you could possibly ask it to do. It's got the processing power to do that thing. What it can't do is more than it has laid out for you. So the problem with the advantage of software switchers is you have a lot more flexibility. You can keep on adding depending on what your hardware is, but they are very capable of asking for more power than your computer has. So if you're putting all these inputs into a software switcher, you would definitely have to worry about how many inputs and how it's working and so on, and possibly even movement. On a hardware switcher, not so much, because it's designed to be able to max it out. Even with super sources and so on and so forth, it was built for that. That's why it doesn't have 4 super sources or 8 super sources, is because it doesn't have the processing power to do that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I don't think the ATEM is going to be in any danger of running out of power or memory, but be forewarned that it does have Teranex on all the inputs, so it is frame synchronizing each input, so it's using up some memory for each input, and it's using up a little bit of processing time. If you can adjust all of your inputs there so that they're at the same frame rate, that might speed things up a little bit and put a little less tax on the system. So, if you choose 5994 or 30 frames, 2997, try and make it the same on everything, and things should switch faster.
Yep, absolutely. Roscoe and then Jason.
Yeah, I like buying products from a company that has a long history in the past. I mean, their design of their chips, a fresh company coming right out may build something that doesn't hold up, but BM Blackmagic design stuff really is well done.
And when they were fresh, we paid a lot of. There's a lot of scars from when Blackmagic got into switchers. It wasn't nearly as smooth sailing as it is now. Jason and then Rupert.
Yeah, and I'm reminded in the past, how many times did we have to answer, in effect, the same question? Can the ATEM Mini X and Y, and then here's the kicker, at the same time? And the answer is no, it can't. It can't, because it is designed to do exactly one of those things at once. And that's the difference between a 1ME and a 4ME, other than, many, many thousands of dollars, because that is an exponential increase in the complexity of the number of lanes required to do these concurrent processes.
Right. Go ahead, Rupert.
So if you are going to push it hard, maybe just keep it cool. We've talked about cooling and the heat dissipation a lot of times, so just remember that.
Yeah. What's interesting for me is that the number one thing that reduced the heat on my ATEM is the lighting on the buttons. Someone else had mentioned that, and I turned them down. It was Courtney. Courtney mentioned the lighting on the buttons has more of effect on your ATEM's heat than all the processing that you can ask it to do. It's a funny thing.
But that's true for laptop too. People don't know this, but the more backlight, the backlight uses just about more processing power or battery power than just about anything.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say the heat thing may also be because that's what you can feel. And the main board is on the bottom, but to that point, I keep mine elevated, and I had an initial issue with my fan clicking, but since that was resolved, no matter what I do, I've barely heard it. But I do turn mine off when I'm not using it. But yeah, so far I haven't found a case that makes it truly unhappy.
James Babbitt asks, removing ads is worth paying for on YouTube. What other features might be added to produce a premium podcast? Douglas, do you have your hand up, or are you just sitting there? Oh, there we go. So you can see you get in trouble if we were auctioning something off. Jason?
This has been answered so many different ways, and most of them end up, wandering into something like Patreon, where you have a division. Nobody ever wants to give up the audience that they have, and at the same time, nobody wants to go broke either. When a violent change in the market or during COVID vastly changes the way that people consume things. So the answer is pre-releases, early releases for in-depth things, and kind of the little something extras. I've also seen podcasts like Hello Internet have all but disappeared, aside from those who support them. Things like that have been tried, and as long as you've got the following, have to some degree been successful.
Go ahead, Courtney, and then Michael.
Stream it live when you're recording it, so that people can interact in a chat room or in something if they have Mercana, because that makes it that increases their interest so much because they then are a participant in the show itself, and it it also increases watchability. If they think they're going to see something go wrong, then the edited version, they'd much rather see the the naked recording.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that interactivity, pre-show, post-show, the kind of stuff we do here. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it really depends on the audience and the community that you're building. I'd say for me, removing ads is usually not on its own worth it for a single thing, but that interactivity, bonus content. A lot of podcasts I listen to do post shows of some form, even if they're not necessarily interactive, but I have some relationship of a sort with those hosts, right? But it really, for me, also depends on who that host is, what the product is, or the community that I'm a part of. And so I would also say survey whomever you're working with, or ask your audience to see what they want.
Go ahead, Rupert.
Don't forget the merch.
Merch. There you go. That's perfect. Yeah. I think that figuring out a way that the audience, I think what we do is really the audience is the show, is part of the show, is completely embedded into that. And so I don't know if that's the answer, but I do feel like we get a lot out of it by doing it this way. Go ahead, Jan.
There's a new beta thing on Zoom. It's called On Zoom, where the idea is that you put on a show and you could actually sell tickets on Zoom. It's in beta right now. So if you apply for an account, then you should be able to see if you could raise some money that way.
Let's go to the next question. We've got Eddie Scott, who said, where are all the Aussies that this late show was designed for? Right, exactly. They left us. They were like, hey, we got to do an evening show. And then a bunch of other cool people showed up, but they have left us. Sigh. The problem is that by moving to the evening, we put it in the middle of their days. So they're at work. Go ahead, Jan, and then David.
Yeah, you hit it, Al. They're at work now. Australia is open.
Which is why some of you all can show up for this, is because it's now outside of work time. David?
Yeah, well, either that or the weather got really good there.
Yeah, exactly. It's time to enjoy the sun. Dave Kaufman from Vancouver, British Columbia says, new Paulson headset, how flexible is the boom before I break it? Go ahead, Ray.
Well, Dave is a former co-worker of mine. Any rate, he must have ordered his Paulson headset about the same time I did. Any rate, mine arrived today, and it was coiled up quite tightly, and I found that I could straighten it out. And I had to bend it quite a bit, but it seemed to survive quite nicely. Of course, in the meantime, I bought a PR40 because I ordered this about 3 months ago.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
We promised him on Mukana that you would show him how to bend his Paulson.
But who would? I would, or
would.
Ray would?
You would with the thumb.
So here we go. So what you want to do, I think is something like it. I don't know which mic this is. So I got so many little headset mics. I think this one's actually the other pile, but they'll both work the same way. So when I instruct people to fix this, now this one's actually fitting me fairly well. So what I want is this to come right down to here and be just short, about a ½ inch short of the corner of my lip. That's how I try to set mine up, for that. And I want it to basically just come off my face here. So because I've worn this one before, it actually is pretty darn close to where I want it. But a lot of times they come in kind of, bent into your face. So the first thing I do is I adjust it so that it is, so it's in the right position here, but it may be like pushing into my face. And for me, what we try to do, we're trying to oftentimes work with someone remotely, keep it as simple as possible to fix the problem. So what we do is we tell them, take your thumb and put it right on the boom, right at your ear. Take their finger and just pull it out like that. And that's going to bend it right there. And you could probably do it a bunch of different ways. You can see how I bent it out a little bit. You can probably do it a bunch of different ways, but the reason we say to do it that way is because it's pretty surgical. It's hard to screw up. If you start grabbing onto it like this, you start ending up with things all over the place. You can bend it a lot. You can't do it very many times before it snaps. So you do want to, what we try to do, what we've learned from poor experience, is that if you get into that thing where you're overcorrecting and people are fixing it, they will break the mic because It's not designed. It's metal. It just wears out. So that's how we explain how to put that in, is get the boom forward to where it needs to be, and then bend it out, and then be done. No, David.
Yep. The pile that I have, the little rubber thing started loosening up, and I was wondering I tried just heating it up to see if it would shrink down, but what are some other recommended ways
the
to
rubber?
The rubber ear thing just started.
Oh yeah, he's trying to do like shrink tubing kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, the rubber that goes over the ears.
Yeah. It became loose, so every time I put it on, it's like a noodle coming out of my ear. It's weird.
It's 15. Yeah, like the limitation of $15 mic. Yeah, $12. I probably shrink wrap it somewhere. Like just put some shrink wrap on it and heat it up and tighten it. Go ahead, Ray.
I had that problem with my Pile mic, and I used that rapid fix it that I told you guys about. The powder and stuff. Sealed it beautifully, and
then he put it right on, and then it just stayed there the whole time. It just didn't, It just was.
I super glued mine to my head, and it just hasn't come off at all.
Exactly. Go ahead, Roscoe.
Piles are $17.50. Polsons are $24.95.
Yep, there you go. And Polsons used to be cheaper. I think we ruined everything for everyone. They were $9.95 when we discovered them, and now they've learned that, hey, we get more than double the price, and people will still buy them. So still pretty great. There it is. It's great at double the price. Frederick Jepsen from Munich, Germany says, I am looking for advice on how much light is enough. Currently using 2 Elgato Keylight Airs, 24 watts each, with a Sony ZV-1. I am 3 feet from the lights. Any suggestion on what ISO, f-stop, shutter time to aim for? Go ahead, Jason.
You gave us a lot of really good information, and you neglected to give us the one that's really going to matter. What is the aperture of your lens, and how good or how noisy is that particular camera? I don't know offhand, but if you were to do that, we might have some sense of it. Also, the wattage doesn't really matter. What matters are the number of lumens that come off of the light, and I don't know for the Elgato right offhand.
Go ahead, TJ.
So I'm guessing the Sony's got to be pretty decent at ISO. So what I'm doing right now is I'm shooting at ISO 400, frame rate anywhere between 1/30th or 1/60th of a second, just to get a decent thing. And I've got my lights. I have one Elgato key light that's at 11%. So it can go a whole lot brighter. And I'm running around f5, f5.6 on my camera lens right now. So that's just to give you an idea of a ballpark of what could possibly be set up.
Yeah, so it looks like it's a 1-inch sensor, so it's probably going to have pretty good. It's probably going to have a pretty good setup there. I would typically what you would typically have is your 1/60th of a second for the shutter, but I often go to 1/30th if I need more light, because if I'm sitting, it's not going to matter. I think I agree with TJ that 400 is a good number to start with. I might open it up a little bit more and go to like a 2.8 or something like that, because a 1-inch sensor is not that big. So to get a shorter depth of field, I'd probably open it up and it would give you a lot more light. So Peter, and then Jan.
I was just going to say that camera uses it's actually a variation in the RX100 family series of cameras.
Yep.
And it has I found that camera has really good low light capability. I have one of those that I carry around sometimes.
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
This is my exact setup that he has. It's at 160 f2.5. As far as the Elgato key lights go, they don't give you the degree of temperature in a percentage. There are sliders, and what I recommend is just to play with it. But the most important thing that I found with the Sony ZV-1 is to set the continuous focus onto capturing the eyes. If you have it as a face, then it will keep going in and out of focus. But if you have it set to the eyes, it'll work perfectly. And then you just adjust the sliders until you feel like you've got enough light.
And that's, in general, focus is all we look for is eyes. A lot of times we turn, when I'm focusing on video, I'll turn the focus Focus Assist on, and I always when I train people, I'm like, you just want everybody to have devil eyes, like they just have red. You just want to see red, 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 red. You just see, make sure that their eyes are red. Don't worry about their sweater. Don't worry about their hair. Just watch all those eyes turn red, and then you're in focus. So Laura Seal at Greensboro says, any recommendations for a contact management database that's not sales oriented? Need to track correspondence with 100+ interviewees for a documentary. That's a lot of people. Go ahead, John.
I'm actually going to argue and say go for the sales databases, because they're designed for tracking correspondences, and you can keep track of everything that you need to keep track of in there. You just don't use the fields that you don't need.
Go ahead, Michael, and then Joshua, and then Jason.
Yeah, it's somewhere between a CRM and a generic tool, but it might be worth looking at Streak, which is primarily operates as a plugin for Gmail that you use in your browser, and you can use it just for contact, reply tracking and like to-do lists. But if you also use their web interface, they have a bunch more sort of stuff. And I think if you're looking for sort of a lightweight CRM, it might fit the bill. And there's also a pretty decent free version.
Go ahead, Joshua, and then Jason.
If you're open for paying, Zoho Contact Manager, I think it is kind of a step between an address book and a CRM, where it'll do the email correspondence tracking, but it's basically just a glorified address book. If you can't pay, there's an open source project called Monica that's designed for families, but will give you the same idea.
Yep. Jason?
I would first and foremost be dead sure that Google Contacts will not do what you need. It is incredibly powerful, and you can set up groups and what have you. I'm assuming you've done all that, and if you really need like a lightweight database, I'd say a Canadian company called Market Circle has one called Daylight that's fantastic.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Are you thinking of using it to like drive keywords in something like Final Cut Pro? Give me a thumbs up, or
Yeah. I need the database functionality so that I can sort them by, certain affiliations and things like that.
So do you want that sorting to go on while you're inside the editor, or do you want that to be outside the editor and then you bring in what you need in batches? Does that answer?
I'm not sure that would matter. I just want to be able to filter them in
and find the correspondence.
Yeah, not just the correspondence, but by the biographical information also.
Right.
Well, because I know Philip Hodgetts has some things specifically designed to do tracking of media and going into Final Cut Pro. So you might look at Intelligent Assistance and see if that might meet your needs.
Go Jan and then Maggie.
Simple down and dirty database. Flexibit makes a thing called Card Hop, and you can do a lot with that. You might want to look at that. I think they have a sample. I use it. It's pretty good.
Maggie? Oh, can't hear you. Might be double muted. Nope. Jason?
Just as a follow-up, I believe it's a metadata editor. You would be shocked at how much you already have in Final Cut. And take that and just a spreadsheet. I mean, I'm not kidding. The bio can all be in one column. I know that sounds crazy, and pardon my ignorance. Maybe I'm missing something, but and if you take that and mix it with the metadata that's already in Final Cut, I don't want you to go down a rat hole just to solve problems that don't need to be solved.
Are you trying to manage all your email back and forth with them so that it goes through that database, that CRM?
Yeah, that's mainly it. I hadn't thought about incorporating it into Final Cut or in the edit in that way. Mainly what I'm trying to do is track who worked at a particular company, who did a particular job, all those kind of fields in a database. That's my initial need, but integrating it with the media would be fantastic.
I will say that I'm going to channel Bill Davis, and say this is one place that I would think about FileMaker. Like this is, like there's a, you can build whatever layout you want, however you want to lay it out, however you want to manage the data. And what's nice about it is you can change all of your looks all the time and build it to exactly what you needed. And then you can also change how it reports. So you can keep on adding, changing all the containers, and and getting it to just what you want. And when you're talking to them on the phone or you're getting emails or whatever, you can have it look like the thing you need it to look like then. Then when you're trying to list off everybody that was from this company, you can sort it that way in an Excel style version. And when you export it, you can decide what fields you want to export. So I will admit I've been using it, I don't know, 20 years, on and off. So
Well, that's what I used 20 years ago. I actually didn't realize that was still alive.
it's still there. They're still building it. They've gone through all ups and downs and stuff like that. I've never made it over to the server version or their little bento version or whatever, but for me, it's just like this open space that I can build stuff if I'm trying to just manage data that is coming in. And Michael?
Yeah, it's funny. As you were saying that, I was looking up what FileMaker had right now, because that's where, especially if you're doing something on the desktop, that's probably where I'd start. I think the question is it, a desktop app that you could more easily integrate with something like Final Cut, and do your reporting that way, more useful than cloud version. I've never played with the server version. I guess
I don't think you need that. I think you could do it with the desktop version.
I don't think you need it. It's more just if you were working with others or were moving between computers, right? That would be the question. And then the other thing I'd say is, regardless of what tool you choose, it's worth looking at something like If This Then That or Zapier that could be a place to shuffle content in and out. If it's something like communications where you might not necessarily have a single system that you would be able to use.
All right, we're going to jump to the next question. Stephen Kimbrough says, any comment on the TWiT Club announced yesterday? I do now. I understand what it is. so it is a, TWiT is they have a club. I think it's $7 a month, and it's Discord, and I've only just opened it up. Of course, they sent a link for the hosts, so I'm there, so I'm looking at it. It's sparse. They just began. I mean, just sparse, like compared to what our Discord looks like. So I was like, wow, there's not a lot of channels. So, but it is. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that they're going to play with a lot of. I think overall, I'm pretty excited about where they're going with it. I think that it'll grow. However, what's nice about it is it's like a little seed, and they'll grow it into whatever the users, kind of want it to be in. I think I will admit that I've been an advocate for this kind of offline community at TWiT for 10 years. So I'm really excited to see the ability for people to be more included in the shows. So I think it's a great step forward. Go ahead, John, and then Courtney.
So two other things that they mentioned Leo mentioned yesterday was that it's going to have two feeds. One feed is a complete feed of all the shows that are ad free. The second feed is that it's like outtakes and special events they couldn't afford to do otherwise. And I think it's a really good thing. I'm thinking about it. The reason why I'm considering not doing it is because I don't want to listen to everything. And if he had a separate feed for each show that was ad free, then I would definitely go down for it. But because it's everything and there's stuff I don't want to listen to, it's like, do I want to pay $7 for the other stuff? And that's where I'm drawing the line right now.
Right. Courtney?
One thing he didn't really make clear is he's still going to live stream the live shows with the live reads built into them, and then they're just going to edit those live reads out for the subscription model, or is it two different versions? One, is he going to abandon the live, air streaming of the recording of each show?
No, I don't think he's going to do that. So I'm pretty clear that Leo doesn't plan to take anything away. So everything that you're getting right now as a user, you're going to keep getting exactly the way it is. This is just adding on. Now, I have to admit, I didn't track, as a user, I didn't really track whether I was more interested in the Discord. I was like, I didn't need them to make it ad-free or whatever. They were like, sure, that's great. But the Discord, being able to be part of a community and interact with it and so on and so forth seemed to be more important to me. But it's probably only because I feel like our Discord is so important to what I do every day that having that feature is valuable. Go ahead, Jan.
Has Leo ever expressed any interest on coming back into office hours?
He'd be
He
happy to
was
come
pretty
back
good
on.
that time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure Leo would come back in. In fact, maybe what we ought to do is bring him back in and have him talk about his new club. Like that'd be a good second
About to
hour.
say the only complaint that he had was, do I really have to get up this early? I think we should get him on back next Monday.
Well, let me talk to Leo. We'll see if we can't drag him on. But in the evening, he'll just be, I'm tired. So we won't win either way. So anyway, Mark Harder says, Alex, can you talk about how important it is for the director to be in direct contact with the lead talent, especially when the start times are delayed? Super important. Okay, I'm done. No, just kidding. No, so the big thing is that a lot of with talent, a lot of times, all talent you want to kind of treat like a fragile flower, no matter who they are, even if they're a burly wrestler, you just want to treat all talent like a fragile flower, which is that when they get off, they're not going to put together as good of a show, and it's not. Now, if they're professionals, they'll get over it. Like Madeline did a pretty good job. We were late. Madeline did a pretty good job of, just coming right back on, turning all the energy back up. But a lot of people won't. They'll be frustrated, and it'll affect the entire show. So part of the situation is getting into a rhythm where they know how it's going to start, and then it starts that way. And if it doesn't, you're explaining to them why, what's going on. While you're explaining it to them, it should sound pretty much like how I'm talking right now. Not stressed, not yelling, not you don't even want people to hear. I mean, I think for the most part, if you listen to the comms from Mad in the Kitchen, you notice that I wasn't yelling into the comms, and the whole house was on fire. But the whole, everything was going wrong, and I was just like, and we're going to do, and that's a muscle that you build up to not allow your stress to end up in the comms, and I was not always that way. So it is an acquired ability, not a natural ability. So it is important to calmly let them know what's going on. Communication directly to the host is incredibly important, but we prefer to have it with all the on-air talent. So that's why we have point-to-points with everybody, is so that I can talk to each one of them. I've had a situation, with one of the shows that we did, someone was having a Skype problem, and I was able to say, hey, you're having a Skype problem. We're going to drop you out. And then I went to the host and I said, I told the host there, I said, this person's having a problem. Don't call on them, because I'm going to take them out of the show and put them back in. And so they just nodded. They nodded a little bit while someone else was talking. And then I take that person out and bring them back in. Everything's working. We get them all realigned. I come back and I tell the host, okay, they're back. You can go ahead to them, and boom, they went right to them. That kind of communication is the difference between kind of that, all those uncomfortable moments that we see on Zoom, is they don't know exactly what to do. That fixes all of those things, or fixes a lot of them. So the problem that we had, the one problem that we had in our comms, is that I didn't have it set up very well, which will be set up better for this one, where I couldn't really leave my desk, because I was kind of wired in, and so I'm getting a better headset so that I can wander around. Go ahead, Stephen, and then Jason.
Yeah, most of us deal, I guess, with corporate types. So, yeah, you want to make sure that they're on comms, they understand it. We went to something I think you thought was kind of janky, Alex, is we kind of put some background noise when we're going to speak. So about 2 seconds before we speak, they know this is coming in on comms. And the idea is freeze. We just told them, don't do anything, don't respond, and you say as little as possible. In other words, we're going live in 2 minutes now. They're in ad.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that works pretty well.
Jan, and then Jason.
One thing I found that with talent, with the exception of James Brown, is that it's better to be proactive than reactive. And if you know you're going to have a problem, let that talent know as soon as possible that you're on top of it. Because if he has to be reactive, you're in trouble.
The other thing is that you also have to make decisions about whether it can be fixed or not. So if a talent has something out of whack on air, and they're going to be on air, and there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to cut away, there's no reason to tell them. like they're, like you have to make a decision about like, are you going to make them self-conscious about something that they can't fix? And so you have to look at it now. You do figure out a way, if you can, how do I, again, using my comms, hey, we're going to cut away to something, and then we're going to fix your mic, and then we're going to do this thing, and then we're going to, so if you can use your comms and your run of show to hide something, that's great. But if you can't, telling them that there's something wrong, and if it's horribly wrong, you're gonna have to find a way to fix it. But if it's like a little something like their collar's out or something, we see people sometimes make mistakes of telling them that, like, hey, your collar's off a little bit. They can't do anything about that right now. Like, and so now they're just thinking about it, and it screws up their presentation. Jason, and then Joshua, and then Tim.
It is perfectly normal.
Well, your mic is gone.
Did it just go away?
You might want to unplug your USB or whatever, but it's got that Cylon thing. Joshua, and then Tim.
Similar to what you said, you have to watch when you tell people stuff, but I've always tried to make more of an effort the higher someone is up the food chain to make a hole where I could tell them that their collar's messed up or their mic's out or whatever.
Oh yeah, you absolutely want to do it. You just have to, if there are just certain points in time, it is fine. And I think the collar's not a good example because that's pretty easy to fix.
Right.
But there are things that we've had people say to them, like about the set or about something, and there's like there's nothing that can be done about that. So
and it just throws them off.
It just throws them off, and there was we couldn't fix that. There was no way to fix it. And to your point, though, you should figure out. And again, comms allow you to get back to the point. Comms allow you to fix things because you can coordinate. You can coordinate the host with the staff, with the other guests, everything. You can do that coordination in mid-show when you have it. And that's why comms are half the show. Go ahead, Tim, and then David.
Yeah, one thing that we do is we have just a countdown timer with a 1-minute intro, basically. So that countdown timer is running pretty silently. Like, I'm talking about a church worship service, basically. We have the full live band and everything that starts right on time, basically. And so the 15-minute countdown is going with other music that I can play in the venue. And then about 2 minutes before, we switch to just kind of a generic background music. Then we have a custom 1-minute intro. So all of a sudden, the entire atmosphere kind of changes. And it's like everybody just rushes to their place and they know it's time to go. So one thing that helps us, of course, is that happens every single week, week after week. So it's not a unique thing where we're trying to train or like, it's not event by event. Our event literally is every single week. So we do get that muscle memory basically of it really is time to start. So that helps us.
Patterns help talent. Like, and if you rehearse it and you figure out, a lot of times with new talent, we'll rehearse. If we're going to come out of a countdown clock, we will rehearse it over and over and over again. And then we do it exactly that way. And a lot of the thing is like I'm saying 2 minutes out, 1 minute out, 30 seconds out, 15 seconds out, 10, 9. That is actually not to tell them that. They have a countdown clock in front of it. It is literally like it's a pattern to calm everything down. Like you just hear this thing that's you're doing that not because they have a number in front of them. It's this pattern of doing something that just kind of calms the whole situation down. David, and then Jason.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it right there. You got to put the calm in comms.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. It's super important. Go ahead, Jason.
All right. Did I fix it?
You did.
Okay. Perfect example of what exactly I was about to say. You got to understand, a lot of the regular panelists have done this for a very long time, and and don't get flustered accordingly. If you are not in front of a camera, then the worst possible thing you can do is take your nervousness and transmit it to the host, who is on the other side of the camera.
Well,
and it takes some practice to not do that. So yeah,
and it's not just the host.
It's
increasing stress in a comm system creates mistakes. Like that's what happened. Yelling into the comm system about something generates mistakes. People start, there's certain people. I find like it came down to, there are certain clients I've had where no matter what I do, every show something goes wrong. Like not horribly wrong, but it's usually before the show or something. And I realize it's just there's a pattern that they have that makes me question myself or figure something out, and just something about who they are, about the way they ask questions and everything else. And most of them we've noticed they complain a lot about people making mistakes around them, and I'm really, they're creating some kind of energy around that. So you want to not create that, and you want to create something where people feel assured. And part of that is planning, part of that is process, part of that is, but a big chunk of it is how you communicate both on comms and off comms. Go ahead, Courtney.
And if it's a live show, have someplace to go. The problem is if you're in a non-commercial live stream or something, you may not have someplace to go to while you fix the problem. So always have at least 2 item numbers in the rundown ready to go next. If you have to skip over something, you calmly tell the talent, so-and-so's not showing up, so we're going to skip over him, and we may come back to him, and we're going to move on to so-and-so who's ready to go. And so it's important that you have everybody lined up at least 2 items deep if it's a long show, so that you have somewhere to go, or at least have some commercials. You see in live newscast all the time, they go, well, we've lost so-and-so's sound. Well, we'll go to commercial and see if we can get him back.
Let's go to the next question. Luca Pasquale Giannini from Montreal. I hope I said that right. Again, you can, in your profile, you can put your pronunciation into the. I just finished watching today's replay with Greg Gibson, and it was an inspirational seeing his pivot from a laptop to the mother house or mothership. My question, suggestion: what about creating a recurring second hour day showing the audience how to go virtual from scratch? I think it'd be great. You should put it into Discord. Put it in the second hour. We'll figure that out. Go ahead, Jason.
I mean, part of me thinks that we do that to some degree just about every single time. That said, I think having a focused
thing,
sure.
I think having a focused one. I don't know about biweekly, but I think that maybe on a quarterly basis we really stop and just go, what are the best ways to get off the ground again? Go ahead, Jan.
One thing that I came away with a lot of things, and especially in the after hour show. But the one thing that really stood out in my mind of all the things that he said is how supportive this group, this office hours group, was to him to get him off the ground. I can't even mention all the people, but Leland and Chris and Guy and you. And I mean, there was a litany of people that all stepped to the plate. Jeff with one F came to the plate. So there must have been, he must have mentioned at least 10 different people that spent time with him, getting him off the ground. So what you've created here in office hours is a brain trust of people that are doing what he needed to do, and we assisted him in getting his goals accomplished.
And I'll only say what we created. I definitely didn't do it by myself. I mean, a lot of people showed up and have contributed to. I mean, there's so many at this point. And almost from day one, there have just been so many people that have contributed to the group. That help with the Discord and help with the chats and help with the questions and help with the edit and help with there's this show nothing about this gets done without a group effort. And so I'm just always, and the thing is that I've said this I think before, but when we help each other, we're building a network that is going to help us over time. So for those of us who might be a little behind, or I'm sorry, a little ahead, like we've had some life experiences that we can contribute back to, building up this network is something that you're investing. It's like farming. You're putting out seeds of knowledge and everything else that when you need to have a question answered, when you need help later, when you need someone, like for me, when I needed to test something last week before the Mad in the Kitchen thing, 65 people just showed up and helped us figure out that what my idea was horrible. And so it was really important. And so those are all these kinds of things and so I think that it is really important that and I wasn't always this way either. I was very secretive about a lot of stuff. And I think that you can't give faster than you'll get out of this community. But it also requires collecting the right, attracting the right people and having them here, which I think we've done pretty well. Go ahead, Roscoe, and then Jason.
Yeah, Luca just mentioned that he wanted us to cover concepts but not products, and my argument would be that I think products that solve a problem or facilitate a new idea are critical to kind of what I learned here. As that, you know, even just yesterday heard about the Zoom using the Portal TV as a feed to the ATEM, and I mean that's
I don't think that we're very dogmatic. I mean, we were using all kinds of different mics and interfaces and you know, video. We just look for whatever the best solution is. So I don't think that there's that much. We do talk about products, and I think they are important because each product has its own specific advantages and limitations.
You've brought in experts that have been wonderful to just, I mean, that, you know, I don't own a sound devices, but boy, that was an incredible show he gave.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, and at the end of the day, you know, office hours is kind of a gestalt, right? It is a group that is greater than the sum of its parts. And to that end, it is not something that happens by accident, but it's also not something that can be forced to happen, which is the magic of it. And, you know, that is a great thing straight away.
Next question is from Tim Holm from San Lorenzo. How can I measure or determine what scaling a device is delivering? Is there a device or software solution? So you're trying to figure out what the...
Yeah, I'm just basically, when I plug into either the ATEM or a projector or something, how do I know if it's giving me 720 30 frames or 1080i or 1080p or whatever? Because the projector's looking for something that it's not getting. Or, you know, it would just be nice to know what I'm actually sending. Yep. And is there a way to measure that?
Go ahead, Jason.
Easiest possible way costs entirely too much money, and it's, you know, one of these built for video kinds of screens that will downright show you at the very top, you know, what exactly you're getting straight through, you know, whatever it is that you have. Another way to do it would just be plug a monitor into whatever it is that you're getting out. My guess is that you're using drop frame, and the projector or the whatever you're trying to go into doesn't like drop frame, in which case a converter sometimes is necessary.
Well, it's usually progressive versus interlace is usually what we find is the thing that it doesn't. A lot of older projectors won't be able to handle a progressive signal, and so they'll need an interlace signal. They'll want an interlace signal. You can, if you have a mini recorder or something, you can definitely plug it. It'll show up in the Blackmagic recorder as whatever it is. Again, many of these monitors will show that frame rate and resolution if they can see it. So those are a couple of different ways. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, a good solution to this is to carry around a decimator MDHX, which is it'll convert any input to any output frame rate, strange, PSFs to, progressive to interlaced. And it'll tell you, because it has a little LCD on it, when you plug something into it, it tells you what the frame rate is, what the resolution is, and whether it's interlaced or not, right on the LCD. So you know what's going in and you know what's going out on that LCD. Plus, you can set the output to be different from the input, so you can change it to whatever the projector likes.
That's good. Does anyone know if a Ninja Inferno would work? Would that show me? I have a 4K.
It'll definitely show you, yeah.
Okay, something like that. Okay.
There is this is getting pricier. And it's always a dangerous thing. But
you can say it, but you could shoot stop right there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can't remember the name of I'm trying to remember right now. I haven't gotten it because we usually have something on site. We usually rent stuff on site. There's one called, what is it? It's called Weather. I always want to call it Weather Report, but it's yeah. Oh, no. There is hold on. Digital forecast. That's what Weather Report, digital forecast, same thing. So anyway, there's one called Digital Forecast Bridge XTS Mini. So if you really want something, this is like $600, so, and believe me, they get a lot more expensive from there, but I've seen a lot of folks use them. The one that we use most of the time on site is a Fabrics handheld, and that's $7,000. The digital forecast is $668 or $700 or something like that. And it's designed, you just plug the signal in and it tells you exactly what it is. It has scopes, it has all kinds of other things. And I know a lot of folks on trucks that have kind of moved when they don't want to pull out of Fabrics. they bring that. I mean, what we use, I don't own one, but I rent Fabrix's for events, to manage stuff, because that's how we test our lines. So there are tools, to your point, that are designed exactly for this one thing. And so you might want to look at, but the digital forecast is the one that I've seen some pretty high-end folks use as kind of a more cost-effective way to handle it. Peter, and then Jason.
Well, the other thing to remember is the ATEM Mini family has an interesting behavior, and that is it sets the output to whatever the first input camera is set to. It forces that issue.
Yep, absolutely.
So you have to remember that. I got burnt by that very badly at one point.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason, and then David.
All right. So last thing that I've got, at least, if you don't want to spend the whatever $500 for the first thing, or for the $150 or for the $200 for the second thing that I put up, Blackmagic Design up down cross HD. If you set it to a thing that the projector will accept, it's going to give it to you automatically. You'll dial that in, and you just get straight throughput. Your problem goes away.
And go ahead, David.
And if money is no object, the Barco Image Pro line of scalers will do that stuff too.
Oh, come on!
I used to have a couple of Barcos, and they were nice. It was nice. No audio, at least on the older ones.
Or you could buy a car.
I know it was, but they were there. What was nice about them was they had, for us, is that they did VGA and DVI. So it was back in the day, we would have to have one around so that you could always get a DVI signal and sort it out. So
could you like spoof the EDID on the projector somehow to try to force it?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Chris Widner from Lafayette, Indiana, asks, did anyone catch John Barker's Here to Record stream about the new beta for his software, H2R graphics with Telestrator? Haven't. Jason?
It's on my list, but if it's something that he's doing, I want to pay attention. Everything that John Barker does is pretty stinking great.
We got to get him on. So we'll work on that. Someone remind me of that. I know that's been in there, but put it in again for the second hour. We'll get him in.
It's in Switzerland or Sweden or something. That's the problem.
We'll get him in. It's easier. It's in the evening. John Pruitt says, how should I convert a video taken with my iPhone for use with the Playout B? Go ahead, Peter.
I use compressor.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I would use. Go ahead, David.
FFmpeg will do it, and there are some GUI front ends. There's FFworks on the Mac, and I think it's like iWorks or something. There's a Windows equivalent of that.
Handbrake. Yeah. Handbrake is another front end for FFmpeg.
Handbrake is the universal standard. I mean, just cross-platform.
Yeah. So, it converts. It seems like it converts from almost everything to everything else. It's kind of amazing little package, but I usually use compressor because I have a set output that I want to go out to that I know is going to work, and I just drop things on and make it go. David Kaufman from Vancouver, British Columbia says, I appreciate that there are appropriate barriers to get here to Makana. How do I level up to Discord? All you got to do. It's the evening. It's the evening. Chad, is Chad still here? Chad, can we throw the Discord link in?
Bonus link, Alex.
Yeah, we'll do the evening link. We'll do the evening link.
This link is good for the next 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
There you go. So you got that in Makana? Okay, great. There we go. That's all you got to do. In the evening one, we won't do it at a specific time, but somebody has to ask for the Discord link. That's going to be the secret. Someone has to ask for the Discord link, and we'll throw it in the evening. All right. Don Modine from Manchester, Connecticut says, is there an easy way to send comms or IFB to someone on Zoom and be able to communicate with them? Easy? Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, there is. Have them in their own Zoom room with their own machine. Other than that, not that I know of.
Not currently. There's a lot of people working on stuff, and there's people figuring out how to do custom bits and bobs. So, but yeah, there's the easiest way is a point-to-point connection, and so then you just have to start doing things like audio mix minus, and you're really taking over what Zoom does when you do that. But it does give you the ability to start inserting comms into it, and it's super useful. The other way you can do it is have them open Unity on their computer. It'll just mux both of those together automatically into their ear, and so you can do that as well. Go ahead, Rupert.
So just expanding on Jason's point, if they're using their computer for the main Zoom, maybe they can join a separate Zoom call on their cell phone and have a earpod or whatever and do it that way.
What we try to do is have them get the audio from the same source. Otherwise, it starts to become this kind of gobbledygook. So what we would tend to do is have them open something like it could be Zoom, but it could also be Discord, or it could be anything else on their computer. And if they're both using the same output, they'll just both be combined together and summed into your ear so that someone can talk to you. So that is another way to work around that. Go ahead, Joshua.
I may be a little ghetto fabulous here, but for my smaller stuff, I rigged up a mix minus setup using Dante Via to my 4 Mac Minis that you can see in the corner here. And it works pretty well.
No, that should work perfectly. Paul Persakowski in Gainesville said Zoom announced a $100 million investment in video first apps. Maybe someone here can take advantage of it. Link to the news article in Mukana chat. Yeah, we'll probably talk more about that. But yeah, they just announced today that they're going to invest $100 million into companies that are building custom apps for Zoom. So think on that a little bit. Rupert McCrae says, thoughts on the Klipsch as a brand. Go ahead, TJ, and then Peter.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, I love Klipsch. I have 2 Klipsch in front of me. My home theater is mostly Klipsch. The reference series specifically are fantastic. And then there's the legendary Klipsch horn, which if you have never heard, find a local dealer and go listen to a pair.
Peter, and then Jason.
Well, just to make the point, I have my dad's Klipsch horns that he bought in 1957 when I was born, and I have them in my home theater downstairs.
Nice.
And they are just absolutely amazing. And it's amazing, given they're 64 years old, it's amazing they haven't failed at this point.
Right. Amazing. Jason?
So Klipsch first off, the legacy stuff, absolutely no question. Since 2011, AudioVox, I believe, is doing most of their manufacturing, and I'm not actually aware. I have not personally heard anything since then or produced since then. That said, as far as the legacy stuff, they are just industry standard, fantastic.
And are you using for your surround, TJ?
Yeah, I have my mains, and 2 of my surrounds are Klipsch, and I have some B&Ws as another set of surround to timber match the 2. That's the closest I could find for what I wanted for that.
And which Klipsch do you have for the
I have a it's a dipole surround. I don't remember the model numbers offhand, and actually my surrounds are probably so old, not even sure they may be made anymore.
Oh, there you go. All right, let's jump to the next question here. David Brady from New York. Was that right? Did I pronounce that right?
York.
New York. Looking to loop out one 4K display into a small 4K Feel World 7-inch I use for a teleprompter. Any feedback on 4K splitter DAs? Sewell has an inexpensive one that looks too good to be true for only $34. I think it probably was. Any thoughts or suggestions? I will say that I bought things from Sewell Direct before and not had a great experience. So I will be tempted to say that it's too good to be true. When we lost David, we just got sucked up. It's probably me mispronouncing.
No. It was
oh, there you
just
go.
Freaked out on me.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, my experience with Sewell Direct hasn't been incredible. So that's the only thing I would say. Go ahead, Courtney, and then Joshua, and then Jason.
It depends on if your Feel World allows image reverse. You do have to have something that will reverse the image on your teleprompter. Most of the decimators, conversion stuff, some of them have multiple outputs, so you can drive 2 things with them. And they do have image reverse, which you can set on a specific input or output.
Go ahead, Joshua, then Jason, then Roscoe.
I'll second Alex's experience with the Sewells. Haven't used a decimator, Courtney mentioned, but I've had good luck with monoprice if you don't need the image reversal.
I was going to say monoprice is a pretty. I started to buy more. Like I have a little splitter over here, and I bought. They seem to be going up market with their video products. Jason.
Yeah, monoprice in general is great. It's important to know that because of the variability in output of just voltage output, if you're going to be doing any sort of splitting whatsoever, be sure it's powered. Monoprice makes, an unpowered splitter. Don't go there. I've had great luck with the decimator line. They're a little pricey, but in this case, probably the right way to go.
Go, Roscoe.
I did I got that 4K one because it also scales supposedly the 1080p, and I just had to, for $34 I had to try it. So I got it literally in the mail today.
Very good. Jan Landy said, I have a cable card TiVo, but I cut the cable. Does anyone know a workaround or how to convert it to work with YouTube TV? My only question is, why would you need that with YouTube TV? It is TiVo. Like all you have to do is say, I want to save all these things, and then it saves all the things that you ever touched. It's like
there is
magic.
nothing like TiVo. There is nothing like TiVo, and they make them with the on the air and with a cable card, but they haven't made cable cards in like 100 years.
Okay.
And so without the cable card, they're worthless. And all of my TiVos, I have 3 of them, and they all have lifetime subscriptions to them, and it's killing me that I can't use them.
I still understand, but okay. Well, like it's okay. Jason and then Joshua and then Courtney.
Okay, yes. There is nothing like TiVo, and when you cut the cable, you cut the TiVo. I hate to say it to you, but you went through the trouble to get a cable card. Those were impossible to get, and not going to happen.
You go, Joshua, and then Courtney.
Wherever he is on the grid, what Jason said.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah, Courtney.
Well, I have a TiVo Premier XL. Depends on which one you have. If you have the Premier XL that has a cable card in it, it had an antenna input. If you have an external antenna, you can then tune the over-the-air broadcast, and TiVo will give you the guide and recording capabilities for the over-the-air broadcast. So you don't
set up an illegal UHF broadcast, okay? Following me here. And put an antenna up.
Just Jason, you're going to love this. Just an FYI, I am customer 009 on TiVo. I was one of the very first early adopters.
That's what I call early adopter. David Brady.
Yep, I think the cable companies are just killing off the cable cards themselves. So by that aspect, I think that TiVo has probably reached end of life.
Shane Foley from Ashland, Oregon says, if I understand correctly, Apple limits the iPhone's live video output via the Lightning digital AV adapter to 1080p. Is there a way to bypass this restriction and push 4K live to an M1 Mini? Go ahead, Peter.
I guess I kind of don't understand the question, because unless you buy extra hardware, there's no way to push video into an M1 Mini. I mean, I have a Camlink card from Elgato that will do 4K in, but
it doesn't air. You can't AirPlay at 4K, is it, or is the AirPlay
is set to 1080? It's set to 1080, and I don't think the camera will. The HDMI output adapter will do anything more than 1080p the way it's set up right now.
Rec 709. Not that I'm bitter.
Yeah, but I mean that's the current HDMI adapter that Apple sells. That's a function of the adapter.
Yeah. Jason.
This is a limitation of the Lightning port. Straight away. There's kind of no way around
bandwidth.
It. There's just not enough bandwidth to come out through the converter.
I'm kind of surprised.
Will do it, no problem.
I'm kind of surprised the lightning bolt the lightning cable connector has lasted this long. I feel like this is the year it goes away. Like I think we've gotten to the point with the devices. I think they've taken it about as far as it can go. And I think things are starting to constrain around it. So I think that we're probably going to go to USB-C this year. That's my guess. Go ahead, Rupert.
Tomorrow? You think tomorrow?
Well, they're not going to show a phone tomorrow. So, I mean, the phone is the only thing left. I don't think they're going to show. I mean, maybe they'll show a phone. I have no idea. But I think possible. Or nothing. I could see the phone going to nothing. Yeah, which will be horrible. Which just terrifies me.
Can you stream to an Apple TV?
Yes.
What do you mean
So-
by stream?
Well, in other words, if you have something on your MacBook, you could
AirPlay.
stream it. You could AirPlay it. Is that isn't that 4K?
Not really.
I don't think so.
Well, it would upscale, wouldn't it?
Well,
If you
it'll
have
Apple
4K.
TV, Apple
So
TV
make-
4K will upscale,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the stream is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the yeah, I've streamed stuff from my office to the family TV, and across the other side of the house, from over AirPlay. It's worked pretty well. John, and then Jason, and then Courtney.
So Tim Horn provided a link to a Apple Support Forum thing, and it does look like AirPlay will now do 4K stream
Okay.
from an iPhone
Stand
as
I
of
stand corrected.
as of 14. So
Well-
it's fairly new.
The other thing to remember is that if you're pushing a stream from that you're getting in on a phone, it is not streaming from the phone. The phone doesn't download it and then send it to the TV. The phone sends the manifest to the TV, and the TV pulls it from there. So that's how that works to get it. But if it does the screen as well, it's great. Go ahead, Jason, and then Courtney.
Oh yeah, I'm just now remembering there is, if I remember correctly, exactly one way to do it that is somewhat constrained. If you go Lightning out directly into USB-C, directly in, and then go with QuickTime, you can record the iPhone as an input, and I believe that will output at a higher resolution. Barring that, no.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, you covered pretty much what I was going to say. If it's streaming content that is not originating from your phone, then the manifest pass will allow the 4K playback on the Apple TV.
That's what causes it. That's why it takes just a second to get there, and it takes just a second to stop. When you stop it, is because it's got to get the first segment, or it gets or throws away the last segment. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay there. Go ahead, TJ.
Jason, do you think that using an iPad like iPad Pro, you could get out of the USB-C 4K?
Well, the
coming in?
yes, the iPad Pro is fully compliant. You could plug an OWC mini dock in and get HDMI out directly from it without any Apple converter whatsoever. So the answer is yes, absolutely.
Go, Jan.
What about NDI? Can you use an NDI? In other words, the NDI on the iPhone, you play what you want, and then you stream the NDI into your computer.
Not impossible, but be very careful.
Well, I'm not doing it.
No, we're expecting a report by tomorrow morning. We're on again in a couple hours, Jan, and we expect full operational. Like it either we want to see it running. So I'll remind you of that tomorrow morning. All right, there's no way Jan's coming tomorrow. All right, I do that to my kids all the time. They're like, we should do this thing. I'm like, yes, you should. I expect a keynote of all of those things by tomorrow. So. Michael Sweeney says, how come Chad is on the panel at night, but rarely, if ever, seen in the daytime? No, I think that we all know the reason for that. he's a little, yeah, go ahead,
vampire?
Chad.
Day job.
Yeah, day job. So
I can support in the back end, but I can't be on screen, and I can't take job time away from my employers.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And there might be a vampire. We'll leave that out. It's.
How do we know that Chad is real? He could be, Nick Justison's not here right now. He could be an Unreal Engine project that Nick's been working on.
We
I have
don't
no
know.
response to that.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we've never. I don't know if we've seen Chad and Nick in the same one. It could be a. I think the hair simulation is really good. The beard.
That's
very
what pushes
convincing.
it over the top.
Yeah.
You know it's not Nick, or you would think.
Okay, and we had a couple suggestions from Dave Kaufman around the directional filter. Did we figure out the directional filter, Ray? Did we get the filter? No, we can't hear you. Can't hear you, Ray. Yeah,
I removed it and gonna get a different pop filter because there's no wrapping or anything, but it was taking the lows out like crazy, evidently.
And who did you get it from?
B&H.
Well, the one we all have is BSW, so that's the one that we're all using. I think most of us who have one all have the same one. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that all pop filters are directional. Like that is exactly how they work. Even if you've got one of these little foam, koozie looking things, it is still directional based on the density and depth of the foam, even if that directionality is uniform.
So we're out of questions. I have a question though. What is Apple going to release tomorrow? What are we guessing? Go ahead, Jason.
My guess. Well, okay. My guess.
You have to guess one thing. What the one thing you think is going to show up?
iPad
someone else has to guess something.
Is going to have USB-C.
iPad Mini is going to have USB-C. Okay, Michael.
I think it's possible we'll get a new M1 Mac, but possible that also will just show up in the store and not be announced. Hopeful it's an iMac, but not counting on that.
Right. John?
An M1 iPad.
Which would be like an
They already
A15.
have that. It's called the iPad Pro.
Yeah. Joshua?
Sorry about the Zoom mute. Michael kind of took my idea. I'm thinking the M1 iMacs and already kind of phased them out.
Yep. Courtney?
Candy colored iMacs.
Okay. TJ?
A Mac, sorry, not Mac, iPad Pro, but not an M1.
Okay. Jan?
I think they might come out with a new Apple Watch that shows a glucose monitor on it as well.
Okay.
They have the oxygenator now. Maybe they'll come out with with something for diabetes and glucose.
Good, Michael.
Really hoping for a new Apple TV. Not quite on the rumor list, but I refuse to buy one for like a year and a half now. It's biting me every week.
Trying to think if I could think of anything that's new. Go ahead, David.
My deduction is something pen-based, just due to the logo that they were showing. It was kind of swirly, looked like a paintbrush kind of thing. So something.
Yeah, the pencil is due for a redesign, or at least yet another reason to charge you $100.
I was wondering whether it'd be a 3D pen, like a pen that you could push on the iPad and it would feel reactive. I could see Apple doing something like that, where you feel like you're pushing it into the screen and it gives it depth. And if you use the LiDAR, you could actually paint on things in the scene.
Force touch on the pencil, basically like a Wacom tablet.
That'd be scary. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is too soon to actually see anything, but on that sort of note, if anything that sort of pushes in the supposed AR direction are good hints for future Apple products, it seems quite unlikely that we'll see the mythical glasses headset thingamajig.
Yeah, no.
But hints in the AR direction, I think, could be an interesting addition to a product.
Usually the spring is the time when they want to address education. So, because that's when people are in the buying spin for the fall. So I do think that we'll probably see the far out one is that they're going to do a big upgrade to Pages and Keynote. So it might be related to what Michael said. That's the far out guess that I have. Go ahead. But I have no idea. But I think that we've already seen USDZ in Motion, seen it in Final Cut. We've seen you can text it now to people.
Oh, something more with LiDAR. Oh.
Every time I open up Keynote and I drop some little 2D graphics in there, I'm like, when am I getting USDZ in Keynote? That's what I want to know. Like, when can I drop models in here? This is enough of this photo stuff. So, and by the way, it's on if that ever happens. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but the demand for brand new models that are native USDZ for Keynote it's like $1 billion opportunity.
I feel like you could do that on an iFrame or something.
No. I mean, it would just be, it's already being supported in the OS. Like it doesn't, like you can, so there's not, it's just a matter of how it gets implemented. I think, I don't know. We'll see. Joshua and then Courtney.
What about the AirTags that have been in the rumor mill for like 3 years?
I always feel like they're not only, are they going to come out, they're going to say, oh, and by the way, your phones and your computers and everything else, they've had the AirTag for a while. That would be the next.
They supposedly use Find My.
Yeah. They open up a whole different possibilities once you start getting into ultra wideband. When we can reduce, and I've talked about this before, but when we reduce the search area, so we know that the phone is in the ball about this big, it makes it much easier for us to figure out exactly where the phone is looking out with LiDAR. and figuring out, because I don't have to search the whole building. I don't have to hash a 30 by 30 space. I only have to hash a 10-inch space. And so then at that point, as soon as I can see what's going on, I can lock the camera. Now I know where that camera is and where that lens is within less than a millimeter. And now we're going to have a lot of fun. So you were going to say, Joshua? No, we'll go to Courtney.
You hit it.
Yeah. Courtney?
Whatever it is, it'll probably have less ports on it. I wish the opposite were true.
Not that he's bitter.
Not that I am bitter. Well, maybe they'll give in to popular demand and actually go the other way and bring back, HDMI, full-size HDMI ports on laptops and things like that.
I think they just fill the whole back of the iMac with some USB ports, just like a mesh back there. Go ahead, TJ.
I'm with Michael. I'm really hoping they do release a new Apple TV with a better remote and one that will you have some way to make beep when you lose it in the couch cushions.
No, that's you have Find My remote, dag nabbit.
Well, it's in the couch, but where in the couch?
Oh, there you go. You have it beep. Yeah, exactly.
It's under what pillow is that remote?
I still think that there's a really interesting opportunity for Apple to have an Apple TV at 120 hertz, start producing content for Apple TV Plus at 120 hertz, start having have it easily watching your home videos on 120 hertz. The thing that it does is it poisons your viewpoint over time. If you're watching it, I watch a lot of I have to do some work where I'm watching a lot of 120 hertz stuff, and you start seeing frames. Like that's the problem, is like you don't notice frames in 24 frames a second until all you're watching is 120. You spend a week watching 120 frames a second, and you can at 60 frames it's like at 24 frames it's like boom, boom, boom. It just gets harder and harder to watch. And I find that the more 120 frame work I do, the less I can watch lower frame rates. And so I think that that's what Apple could do at a mass level that no one else can. And then it really creates a huge upheaval in content creation if Apple pushes that, because they'll do it and everyone else will hold back, and it just creates, and the cool thing about it is you as a user could actually decide how you want to watch it. So at 120 frames a second, if in the Apple TV you put the hardware to convert it, you can say, I want to watch this at 24 frames a second, and it will put the motion blur right back in and let you watch it at 24 frames a second because it's even frames. So if they got 5 frames to rebuild that motion blur, piece of cake, for a dedicated hardware chip. You could do, I want to watch it at 30. I want to watch it at 60. Whatever frame rate, if you shoot everything at 120, you can watch all the major frame rates without the hardware can do all the conversion for you. So if you really want to watch everything at 24 frames a second, you can. Or at 120, you can. And that's a really interesting possibility. That's why that frame rate is kind of the perfect number for it, is because you can get to all the other ones. Go ahead, Jason, and then Jan, and then Michael.
Yeah, what 120 frames per second really means is that it absolutely has the overhead to handle, the color writ large, the picture-in-picture writ large, HDMI 2.1, which is 4K at 120. When my PlayStation updated, I thought, this is stupid, but okay, I'm up for a new TV anyway. Oh, wow. It's truly just, it really is a game changer. And yes, 4K 120 is the only thing that's divisible. By the way, on the Apple developer forums, there's a fair bit of noise about USDZ and Keynote, so not impossible.
Is there? Is there?
Not impossible.
Ooh. Go ahead, Michael, and then Tony.
Yeah, I think 120 would be great. I think it'll be interesting. Right now, Apple, you don't need this for the Apple TV, but there's only one device in the Apple line that has a 120 hertz display, and that is the current iPad Pro. So I think, a lot of people expect the iPhone coming out in September to go in that direction. So, one of those things is Apple kind of prepares the stage with new features before they launch products. So I think that could be a really interesting nod. 120 hertz natively in Macs would be fantastic. Never mind this whole idea of an external display that, doesn't cost $6,000, but we can talk about that later.
And again, the thing you want to look from a business perspective is that Apple is going to constantly do things that it can do that no one else can. Like that's a good business model for them. So going down 120, pushing that envelope, it's really hard for other manufacturers because they have to coordinate everybody. If you can get your entire ecosystem into one thing, it becomes just difficult to compete with, and they're just going to keep on driving that nail into the ground. Go ahead, Tony, and then Jan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I believe that there's going to be a more powerful, low cost, basic iPad. It's going to do more things and it's going to be extremely useful for education.
I'll be really surprised if anything gets released tomorrow that doesn't have LiDAR. That's my, I mean, maybe if it was a Mac or something, but no portable, no iOS device is going to be released without LiDAR, I think, because I think they don't want to keep putting stuff out there that can't do AR. Go ahead, Jan.
You know, I just went onto the Apple site and it looks like it's doodling in color. And I just realized as I looked at it and then came back, Laura's shirt matches the colors on the Apple website. So I think she might know something.
I think Lori's actually coming to us from Steve
What do you
Jobs
know,
Theater.
Laura, that we don't know?
Even better, this is an Office Hours Remotes band shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, representing.
That's awesome. TJ? What, no, wait. That question's, what did the remotes know? All the way back there. She like the remotes knew all these things. In fact, maybe they're featuring. No, go ahead, TJ.
So you have a phone that does Dolby Vision, and I don't. But I'm wondering, have you ever tried to stream your Dolby Vision video to your Apple TV? Does it come in Dolby Vision at all, or is it just kind of normal flat
AirPlay or
yeah, AirPlay?
But like from the phone's camera or from
just like
Vision?
You record a video and then you AirPlay it to your TV to show everybody. Does it come in Dolby Vision?
Yes,
or
it
not?
does. It finally does.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. Go ahead, Joshua.
Whatever they announce tomorrow will require more dongles.
Yeah, exactly. Courtney Gooden said, what do you think the future of theatrical exhibition is, with California Pacific Theaters and ArcLight announcing they will not be reopening any of their multiplexes? 3,000 screens in 10 years, maybe 5, maybe 2, but it's from whatever it is now.
You think we'll be down to 3,000 screens? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I mean, Hollywood is left. I mean, Hollywood, the movie capital of the world, arguably, is down to 3 screens, 3 theaters. You know, there's the Chinese, there's the El Capitan, and I don't even know if the Chinese 6, those were kind of on their way out anyway. Those are the only screens that are going to be left open in Hollywood.
I mean, I think that the issue is that TJ's probably going to say something about this, but I'll let you go first, TJ. I think he's going to say what I was going to say.
Well, I think what we are going to end up with is going to the movie is going to be an event, and we're going to have a big screen again, not a screen that's just moderately looks like a giant, I could have that in my house projected on a wall if I wanted to, and amazing sound, and just the whole experience of going to the movie, I think, will be reminiscent of what it was decades and decades ago. Of it's an event, we're taking the whole family, we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, go ahead.
But TJ, those theaters, the ArcLight theaters and the Pacific, the ones that were at the Grove, these were all brand new theaters. They're all state of the art. They're all big screen. They're all Dolby. They're all they all charge $17 a ticket. For
and I think that they just couldn't figure out a way to keep going.
To keep it profitable. Right.
But that is the thing that will probably be the thing that gets back. Now, I also think that I would not do any I don't think that there's a future in multiplexes. So I think that you're going to end up with much more adventure, grand, to DJ's point, super high end. But the movie, if I was a movie theater owner, I would do a Dolby Cinema level movie theater, which is the only thing I'll go to now. I used to say Dolby Cinema IMAX, but I've gone to some IMAX stuff and I don't like it as much. I really like the Dolby Cinema because it's smaller and I feel like the sound is better and the projection is clearer, in my opinion. And so I will only go to those, and I'll only sit, I've said this before, I only sit in the 4 center seats in the front row before the aisle, because there's nobody in front of me.
Through whatever
it's like,
it is.
I think it's E10, 8 through 12 or something like that. Anyway, so but that's the only seats that I'll sit in. And because if I'm going to pay for it, I want that experience. Like, that is the experience I want. And so I think that, but if I was there, I wouldn't run a movie for a month. I would run the movie for a week. And that used to be impossible because we were carrying around film canisters. So it was not, again, we get back into the constraints of the past, getting into the future. We didn't want to move the rolls around, the reels. We didn't want to move those reels around. So you had to keep it there for a certain amount of time. But now what I would do is I would have it where every Friday, if you're into movies, every Friday at that theater, I'm going to spend all my money on one theater, and every Friday it's something different. And it just rolls. Every Friday there's a new thing at that great theater.
Boy,
and
I hope you're right.
I think that would be a much more successful business model. This whole because after I've seen it, I don't have to go back for 6 weeks because there's only ArcLight is a good example. There's only one theater. The 70 mil is the only one I'll go to see if I'm in Hollywood. I don't want to see the little ones.
Not anymore.
I know, but I'm just saying I don't care about the other ones that they put in there, all the little independent ones. Or I just want the big theater, and so I think that's what would be much more successful is flipping that every week and have it be something new and cool. And I've thought that for the last 30 years though.
What they've been doing actually, because since they moved to a server, run model, you don't have film anymore. They run, one theater will run 4 different movies during the day. One movie and the next movie up is not the same movie.
But I think that it confuses people though, because when you get into it, I don't know what. You do an ArcLight, but I think that you're spreading too little jam over too much bread. You have all that infrastructure and all those people and everything else to support a multiplex where if you pulled back and just said, this is the theater I'm going to put it in and I'm going to change it once a week and it's going to be great. Or to your point, change it every night. I don't care. But the point is that especially as a viewer, if I knew that the only time to go see it in that theater is the next week or the next 2 days or whatever, it becomes something that I'm going to go do. As opposed to, because the biggest problem with Dolby Cinema, there's no way to figure out what's playing in the next month. Like it is impossible to search to figure out what is going on. So you have to. So I find myself when movies were going, I was checking every week to see what's coming up, what's next, so I could figure out. And I was excited about going to the movies again, which I haven't been for a long time, because I didn't even know Dolby Cinema existed until like 3 years ago. And it was. I went to maybe 2 years ago. I went to the Matrix 20th, and I had never seen a Dolby Cinema until then. And I was like, "What is this?" Go ahead, Jan, and then David.
Now the theaters, now the studios are all releasing their movies first run on streaming, almost at the same time as they're doing it in the theater. I'd also say that CinemaCon is coming up in June, so they're going to have to plan what they want. But I also am curious to know, a lot of the theaters had streaming rooms where a corporation would do it in the headquarters and then stream into the theater. Do you think that that's gone forever now that everybody's zooming?
I think only get bigger. If you think about digital first events, what I would do with that multiplex that isn't the big theater is turn it into the endpoints for big events like global, you could roll out a product and have, instead of having everyone try to fly to LA or to San Francisco or Chicago or whatever, you just broadcast out and everyone, you can put up, you can have it appear in 30 different cities, and people could get up in any one of those rooms and ask a question and be part of the conversation, and all that stuff would be totally possible. And those theaters with a little bit of work would be the perfect venue for that. Go ahead, David.
Some friends of mine recently rented out a theater just to see Godzilla versus King Kong. I think it was 25-person limit, and it did the math. It came to about $13 a head. There's another old theater that pre-pandemic I went to uptown here in Manhattan called the Grand Palace. They showed 2001 A Space Odyssey in 70 mil. Care Due was there afterwards doing a Q&A, and it was a phenomenal experience. Maybe that thing might come back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead, Joshua.
No, our theater in town here is struggling. They've started renting out the individual rooms like to churches on Sundays. They'll use the screens for lyrics behind the singers.
Well, and if you take that a little bit further, the churches that are already filling stadiums could be renting all of those theaters for people who are following them online to go in and be part of the service and to sing along and everything else. Yeah, like a TD Jakes could be sitting there, he could fill 200 screens across the country, like that. So that's the kind of thing that could, there's definitely use for them. They don't need to tear them down. I just don't think they're going to release movies to them much longer. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Fathom Events, I think, is what that company that will let you have the Metropolitan Opera or something through Cinemark. For those who like it, Bartender 4 is out, by the way. It came out this morning. I meant to mention it. This is an app that manages the very top of your Mac OS and will get rid of and compact all that junk that you need running, but you don't want to look at. So useful little thing.
The I don't know where that came from. That was like the very ADD insertion in there. So anyway, the like squirrel. Anyway, and I've lost my train of thought. So the Apple, not Apple, but I think that Apple, Amazon, Netflix, I wouldn't be surprised if they open up their own theaters. I think Netflix and Amazon have already bought physical theaters that they're building up. I don't know anything about whether Apple's done that, but I could see them building those things up as that's where they run their first runs, because they've already gotten rid of the Paramount rule, so they could have their own theaters. I don't think they'd have very many. I think they'd pick top 20 market at most, and they'd put in state-of-the-art theaters that are competitive with Dolby Cinema, probably the same technology. And that's so that they can have reviewers, press, influencers, so on and so forth.
Premieres, premieres.
All they do is do the premieres, and that would get back to exactly what I was talking about, which is they're producing so much content. They could have a different, like an Amazon or a Netflix could have a different premiere every Friday that is at this state-of-the-art theater, and they're going to put it out there, and the only time they're going to show it is that week, or possibly even that day, is the only time.
They could buy the Cinerama Dome. I mean, it's only about 2 blocks from their corporate offices, so it'd be very convenient for them.
Yep, Joshua.
I was going to ask that. Didn't they already rent out theaters in LA to qualify for awards and all?
No, they do, and so the thing is that, but the problem is those theaters aren't very good, or not as good as they could make them. I just, when you've sat in a theater that has 170 speakers, it's really nice experience. The Atmos sounds really good. I think that you could build an entire, to get back to it, you could build an experience that you cannot reproduce at home, that you cannot forget, that is a completely much larger than life. Like I went to see, what was it? Midway, which is kind of a ho-hum movie. I'm a World War II person, so I'll see almost anything that's World War II. And so the kind of a ho-hum show that was totally enjoyable in Dolby Cinema. like it was like, because it was big and there was planes and there was things but when I went, if someone said, should you watch it again? I'm like, not unless you're there, it doesn't make any, and so that's the thing that's going to happen. I do think beyond that, I think action and really big cinematic is probably the only thing that'll be theatrical release soon. Jan?
Netflix last year spent $17 billion, and this year in 2021, they're planning on spending $19 billion on content.
It's never been better to be a creator, like ever.
Yeah. And, but I look at it, the differences in the services, and it seems like Apple just seems to be falling way behind in regards to their creative content compared to what Netflix or even Amazon Prime is doing.
Well, Apple is going for big hits. They're not going for, so Netflix really approaches this as, we have to serve everybody, like whatever your interests are. We want to make sure that if you have a vertical that you're interested in. So while they're not doing as many big movies and big budgets, they are doing, like Chef's Table. It's not a hugely expensive thing. Amazing to watch though. And, but like, for instance, if you look at the Earth, what was it? Tiny Planet that Apple did.
They have Queen's Gambit?
No, they do, but I mean, they just don't have that.
70 million people watch that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that people aren't watching it. They're definitely people watching it. I'm just saying that what Apple needs to do over time, though, is prove to filmmakers they'll give them more money they're not going to spread it out as wide. But if you're a high-end filmmaker, I think that what Apple has to sell them on is we're going to pay we're going to pay more than everybody else. Now the only, and like Foundation is going to, like Foundation is where Apple's going, is we're going to spend an insane amount of money on something. And they're not publishing what that number is. I have no idea what it is, but I bet you it's big. Like it looks like they really just spent all the money on it. And then you look at Amazon, they're spending $465 million on the Lord of the Rings stuff. I mean, the numbers are getting astronomical, for these executions. Go ahead. So it's never been better to be a creator, never been better to be a viewer. Not so good to be a theater owner, but that's what happens with the disruption. Go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah, part of the end of the semester for me is we take the scenes that we've shot and we take them up to City Walk, Universal City Walk, and we project them on a huge screen. And it's a psychological difference for seeing your face, 8 foot projected is very different. And so I don't know that the theater experience is going, how do you replicate that in a home, an 8 foot projection?
Well, again, you have to get it I'm not saying that theaters are going to go away. I'm just saying there's not going to be so many of them, because I can tell you right now that my home theater is infinitely better than 95% of all the theaters out there. Like I have I have 7.1 or 7.2, 7.2,
7.1.2, I bet.
Yeah. And so, I don't have any up speakers. So it's just 7.1. So I have 7.1. I have a really good screen, and I can make any popcorn I want. And I don't have to deal with people, which is important to me. Like, the only people I want to deal with when I go to a movie is my kids and my wife. And so I don't really like the crowd thing, because they make too much noise. They eat really loudly, and they get up in front of the theater, and they talk to each other during the theater. And so that's the whole thing. I mean, I think that they should say, if you get up during the theater and go out to the bathroom, the door should lock after the theater. I'm like one of those people, like, the door should lock when you leave. Like, it only goes one way, so that if you didn't manage that, that's the end of your experience. So anyway, and I don't think they should give you any food. That's not where you eat. You came here to watch a movie. Go ahead, Roscoe.
Well, and the argument is that television uses a lot more close-ups and cuts a lot faster, because they don't have this huge cinematic screen that the eyes look around and experience. So it'd be interesting to see also I know that our attention span is dropping with our young people supposedly, but it'll be interesting to see how this all changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. David, last word. Now we're gonna close it up.
I know I show movies on my roof every summer. My friends they're all bummed out. They're like, "When are you doing it again?" And the neighbors across the street too. I think they enjoy it.
I have a stand-up screen that I'm working on trying to figure out how to put 7.1 in outside, but I'm not sure if my neighbors will put up with it. So it is a thought. We have a yard that's just the right size for all of that. Okay, Peter, one more thing, and then we'll go.
I was just going to ask: are we doing Clubhouse on Wednesdays anymore?
No.
Then you need to update your pro forma email.
Oh, did I send tonight? Is it still on there?
It's still on there. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No, we're not going to do TikTok. Not Clubhouse anytime soon. Maybe we'll do some specials or something. It's too much. In fact, I am enjoying the evening ones, but if they don't get much bigger, I have to figure out starting next week, because they're starting to conflict with some other stuff that I'm doing. So I have to figure out what we're going to do. So we're going to, we're having a good time. It's a more casual discussion, but, I have to figure some stuff out with effort and numbers and things like that. So anyway, we will see you all tomorrow morning, for some of you, hopefully. All right. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Morning. Good afternoon.
Be well.
See, and TJ, I think you have the con. You're the one. You can keep this going. This meeting going.
TJ, pull the plug.
Stay calm.
Right, I do.
As long as you want.
Don't do it, TJ. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're a young man.
They're all hanging on. They're all like TJ's enjoying the power.
An all-nighter. Pull an all-nighter.
He's from Minnesota. He's going to take forever to say goodbye.
Yeah.